Okay, so here we're going to be looking at the willingness to pay for a public good. We're adding demand curves essentially for individuals for a public good. Okay, so let's look at to make it simple. Let's think of a case where there's two individuals. In this case, think of two apple growers. They have orchards where they're growing apples. They can choose to purchase guard services. Okay, so there's this is like a Richard Scarry kind of movie where or book. There are apple thieves. So they can choose to buy hours of guard services. If they do so, their willingness to have different willingness to pay. So it's here. So we have price here, or willingness to pay, and we have H here, number of guard hours. Okay. So there are two firms. They differ somewhat. So we have the willingness to pay for the low firm is given by 10 intercept, and then H for additional guard hours, whereas for firm H has a higher intercept, 20, but then there's still valuation on the margin of these guard hours. So if we draw the individual firms' willingness to pay, we would have here the willingness to pay for L, right? And we would have the willingness to pay for H like this. Okay, so these are the individual demands. We're now interested in the market level demand. We can call this H here. We're interested in the market level demand. Okay, so now we remember that we're looking at a public good. If this were a private good, like the apples themselves or cars or t-shirts or whatever, we would be looking at a price and say, at this price, how many t-shirts, taking t-shirts, are people together consuming? Okay. If we're looking at a public good, the question that we pose is different. Okay, so remember, what characterizes a public good? Well, it's non-excludable. Okay, so in this case, if we're thinking guard hours, would mean that, if these are two orchards that are right next to each other, if one is guarded, that's going to be deterring apple thieves in the next door orchard as well. So it's non-excludable. Okay, and it's non-rivalrous. Okay, so there's not rivalry in consumption just because we're looking at one orchard. The guard is looking at one orchard doesn't mean that he's looking less at the other orchard. Okay? Or think of a case of a lighthouse. It's one of the cleanest examples. It's non-excludable. It's emitting these lights, and one can see that it's in the area, and it's non-rivalrous. Just because the lighthouse warns me for a reef doesn't exclude you from or doesn't hinder you from mean that you're warned nonetheless of this reef. Okay, so it's not rivalrous. So this means, the question is not like, at what price, how many lighthouses, what do people want? It's more like, for one lighthouse, what's the combined willingness to pay for this? How much are we each willing to contribute to this public good? So in this case, in the type of orchard situation that we're looking at, say that we're looking at, one guard hour, this case, the willingness to pay for the low type is 9. The willingness to pay for the high type, 20 minus 1, is 19. And the combined willingness to pay would be 19 plus 9, or 28. Okay, So we can do throughout. So we say that, you know, the market demand, the market willingness to pay, combined willingness to pay for these individuals, is going to be given by the sum of the vertical, of their willingness to pay, the vertical sum of that, okay? So let's switch colors. Let's do that in red. So they're the combined willingness to pay will equal 10 minus h plus 20 minus h. That gives 30 minus 2h. Always no, only if the number of hours is less than or equal to 10, right? So we see at number of hours above 10, no, the load type is not interested in paying for additional hours, okay? So at this point, I'm going to go, so we're using red to denote the market willingness to pay, the combined willingness to pay, okay? So if H is 10 or below, it's given by 30 minus 2H, whereas if, you know, H is above 10, at the same time as we have an intercept of 20 here, and H is not above 20, the pH is given by the high type here. So 20 minus H, or if we're drawing that as well, we can show that. Okay, so the market willingness to pay is what we've drawn in red, and we can express it as this. Maybe clean up this a bit. So we'll do like this. Okay, so this is the combined market, the combined willingness to pay for this public good. Okay, so we're summing demand curves vertically.